Hey guys, Kenny here. Wanted to give you a quick market recap based off of the activity today. And today was pretty doggone simple. So let's go ahead and turn to the charts. Today started off with with the overnight session kind of hovering between the overnight low of 76.2875 and the high of the overnight session was 76.57. So we went from 76.2850 up to 76.5750. So that was the range of the overnight session, and we kind of operated in that range. We saw that it moved from outside of a city, the thing that I refer to as a city, which is a high volume node. But outside of the city, we started to just kind of hover, came back in and tested the boundaries of the city, and then we went up and ultimately found our way to approaching the next city above, which is once again a high volume node on the higher time frame. And then and then the New York session started. And so this was a pretty easy session to trade, right? If you understood and just actually hit buy in the early part of the session, that you would have been profitable throughout. And if you were able to hold from the start of the session to the conclusion of the session, oh my gosh, you made out like a nice amount. So that's, kind of where we started. We started the session, New York session 76.5750, and then we concluded the New York session around 77, 73, 75. And if you traded after hours, it really stayed around that range. And we've actually opened up the evening session, which kicked off at 6 p.m. Eastern time. But man, today was one of those days you just kind of followed the trend on the way up. We saw, kind of a one candle here, one 15-minute candle here of consolidation, and then we continued up. We saw a little bit of consolidation here. Then we continued up to the upside. And once we got up into this range, we just kind of held serve throughout the remainder of the session. And so once we got up into that upper area towards, I guess, beginning at around 1:30 p.m., the remaining part of the session was spent, kind of operating inside of this box right here. So, as an auction market theory enthusiast, I'm always looking for areas of consolidation, acceptance, balance, and that's what we see here as we close out the day. So, price just went throughout this range. We closed out the day, and now we have kicked off the evening session with pricing still holding within the previous day range. And so that's something that I'll look into as we're preparing for entering into the Asia session, and then as I am preparing to kick off the New York session tomorrow. So once again, this session was pretty easy. We saw a heavy trend, an initiative trend, buying activity that brought us up into this range, and then we found a level of acceptance where buyers and sellers were happy conducting business in that range, and so we found out that this was a pretty easy trading day. Click buy and we'll watch it roll. But this is not financial advice. We're just reading the auction, right? That's all we're doing. We're reading the auction, and that's what happened today. And I was able to catch a couple of these moves throughout the day. I'm not one to just sit and hold, especially if I have other things going on from a business perspective. So I caught a lot of this move here, but I didn't catch the entirety of that move. But that's okay. I got what I needed. And this is all about extracting funds from the market, not being greedy and going on about your day. So that's what I found myself being able to do. And that's what I hope that you're able to do as well as you become a more experienced trader. So that's the overall outlook for today. I'll see if there are any other, kind of tidbits we can take. We see that Microsoft started down here and we ultimately pulled up, and then we entered into this balance or accepted range. So we saw an initial push on Microsoft to see what Apple did. Apple, when we saw this push up, a little consolidation acceptance in this range right here, a continuation to the upside, and then we ultimately finished. Man, the sun decided to come out. We decided to finish within. roughly this range right here. So this is the balance area or the acceptance. And then we also saw that for this particular area right here. And we oftentimes see um, a phase of imbalance, we'll balance before we see a phase of imbalance. And so that's kind of where we find ourselves today. So I am going to avoid trying to fight this sun for the remaining part of this particular thing, but let's take a look at one more. Google pushed up, and then we found some acceptance in this area right here. Then we continued up, and then we found some acceptance to the upside, and then ultimately found finding itself trying to push outside of that balance area as we close the day. Amazon was in a state of balance throughout the entirety of the session for the most part. So we looked at this area remaining inside of value or balance or acceptance. We pushed up, we tried to push outside. We got to this level, price rejected, and we came back inside of this area and we are able to find acceptance and build some value right here. Let's see, NVIDIA, we pulled back at the open. Um, Maybe looking to fill that gap. We weren't able to do so. We were able to kind of hover in this area right here, and then we saw a move to the upside, but we stayed pretty much balanced throughout the entirety of the session, operating inside of what we refer to as a balance area or a value area. And then let's take a look at Palantir. We see an initial push up in Palantir, some acceptance, another leg to the upside, and then we finished the session in a balanced state. So, that was pretty much how this session went. And once again, balance, imbalance. And then we concluded the session in a phase of balance. So that's typically what I'm looking for. I'm looking for opportunities to explore when price is getting ready to move from a balanced state to an imbalanced state. And so we see that that was the case for Palantir right there. And let's take a look finally at AMD. Once again, for those who are unfamiliar with my charting, I use volume profile, which we see here to the left. I use a higher time frame, visible range volume profile to help me come up with these gray or shaded areas, which constitute what we call high volume nodes, or I refer to them as cities. When you know where the commerce was produced and conducted, we refer to those as cities. And um, there was a lot of business done inside of this city. And then we came outside of the city and ultimately found a little bit of balance or acceptance here. And then we pushed back down inside of this place that I refer to as a city. And then we were able to push price back out, but we weren't able to successfully enter into the city that exists above or the high next area of commerce where we expect business to be transacted. So that's where we did. That's how we finished out the day for AMD. And that concludes my market recap for today. Hopefully, you are able to catch some of this information and start retaining it. If you want to learn more about the transportation network system that I use as my references, I would love to have you join my community, my school community. The link is in the description and look forward to joining you on the other side. All right, take care. Peace.